Hey everyone, today we continue our talk from last week with one of our favorite people, Misty Dew. I am sure you guys are going to get a ton of value from her wide range of opinions and viewpoints. Please settle in and enjoy episode 19 of the Ministry of Freedom Show. Okay, you ready to move on?
Yeah.
So feminism, I wanted to discuss a little bit. We can go down here for an hour, and we won't. But I wanted to get your thoughts on biological men competing in women's sports.
I don't know. To me, you shouldn't. Just because, again, you have a physiological advantage.
So
there's a height. Biological men are typically built taller. They typically have more muscle development. They're usually a lot stronger, a little faster, all of those things. So you already have a competitive edge over people who are biologically born female. So for me, that is the crux of that issue, is that you are making it an unfair competition. If people aren't allowed to take steroids because it gives them an unfair advantage, then that should be removed as well.
I agree. I think it hurts women. And
in combat sports, it definitely does.
Yeah,
I can't even believe that's a conversation.
Right.
That's ridiculous. Swimming's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be approaching a time where there needs to be a category created. So biological men who identify as women, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, are competing against others. And that might be more fair. Or they could still compete as in the men's division too. Is that crazy? I don't know why we discounted that.
Yeah.
Or is it because they're taking estrogen and things and they're not? I don't know the ins and outs of it. I just know that biological women should compete against other biological women.
Right.
And I don't know why that's so controversial. Seems like a lot of the thoughts that I have that I want to articulate on the show, I just like you am sitting here going, oh, people are going to have something to say about that. I've just done it for long enough now that I don't care.
Well, and I'm open to having that conversation. I'm not so closed-minded and sure of myself that I'm unwilling to listen to your side of that argument. If you have an educated reason behind why you think that I'm wrong, I'm willing to have that conversation. But from where I sit in my seat, that's my opinion.
There are some conversations I'm unwilling to have, and I am closed-minded. A biological male should not be in the locker room with high school girls. I'm not going to have that conversation, and I'm right. And it's unacceptable. Those young women should not be subjected to that.
So I think the idea of locker rooms is kind of archaic anyway. I think it's weird that anybody is getting naked in front of 30 other people.
Have you been to the YMCA?
Yeah, I think it's weird.
Boy, do I have some locker room stories from the YMCA.
I think it's bizarre. And honestly, part of that is because even if it is a biological woman that's in that room, right? The PE teachers in high school, just because it's a woman does not mean that she's not also predatory. So
agreed. Locker rooms were creepy in high school.
Yeah, they're weird.
It just was, But I just think that if I had a daughter and she was 15 years old and she's in the locker room and there's a boy in there with her, how many conversations do we need to have? Again, do we need to build a third one? Okay, protect the children, protect the females. It's got to be a non-negotiable. We've got to be protectors.
Well, and conversely, I mean, if you're somebody who identifies as a different gender, typically aren't you kind of worried about being bullied or being mistreated by your peers? If that were me and I walked into a room of women who don't suffer from body dysmorphia and this is the body they're born with, and I'm here I would think they might have something to say about that. And I would think that also there's a lot of insecurity that I would face walking into a room of people that I believe I should look like and definitely do not.
Yeah.
So maybe there should be like a family locker room, like their family bathrooms at the Target, which honestly better, because I don't want to go pee with 30 people either. So maybe the idea is we should have stalls. And you get dressed and undressed in a stall, and there's a locker where you can store your crap, but nobody's getting down to their skivvies in front of each other.
What about these family bathrooms? I've always been too intimidated to check them out.
Oh, I like them.
Yeah?
I like them. Yeah.
Tell me about them.
It's just a bigger bathroom. It's like the bathroom at your house without a shower. It's got
like a half bath.
Yeah. It's got like a counter with a sink and a toilet, and there's nobody else in there.
All right, I'm checking it out.
They're generally cleaner.
Do you know about them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're great. If I can go in there, that's where I'm going every time.
Love that. Okay. Thank you. I knew this would be fruitful.
Yeah.
Nice, too.
There's a changing table in there. That's what it's really for, so you can change your kid.
Yeah, but I don't have those. So
You can put like your bag up there.
It's great for that.
If you have a bag.
Nobody wants to put their coat or their bag.
Or, you could take your gun off. Set your...
That too.
I mean...
Yeah.
That face you just made is the one I've been trying for an hour, and the one I miss seeing every day. Because one of my targets every day was to say something so outlandish.
Where she gives you the side eye.
She's so nice. Or your gun. Yeah. Because I could see me walking in, because I'm the only one in there, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a nice clean table, and I'm like, put that up there, and I'm going to...
Yeah. Because you don't want it jostling around.
You don't.
I think that's...
We don't want any jostling.
It's reasonable.
Yeah, you definitely do not want a jostling gun.
No.
Okay. So, moving on. LGB, excuse me, TQI+. This is now what that's called. Okay. Did you know that?
I'd heard that.
Do you know about the I?
I don't know what it is.
Are you looking at me?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
I have no idea what it is.
It's new.
I think it's intersex, right?
But what is that?
Let's plug it in, man. So now, and I actually have honest questions here, and I do want your thoughts, and I'm going to for sure give you mine.
Mm-hmm.
So the LGBTQI+ community seems like it keeps getting added letters, added colors to the flag. And I'm going to come out and say this. Here's what it appears to me. We could save all the letters and the additions and the colors and the flag and the designs and everything. Let's just say it's a community for everyone but straight white people. Is that an exaggeration?
No. I will say this.
I'm not even saying we need a category.
No, not at all. There is... It's interesting to watch them lump it all together, right? They all, like, there's a community of sorts, when realistically they hate each other as much as they hate straight people. That is the truth. They, there's
they seem a little angry.
They are, bisexuals are hated by lesbians and by gay people because they can't decide a sexuality.
Really?
Gay men and lesbians have nothing in common.
They are not fans. Lesbians want to get married on date 2, and gay guys typically don't date. So there's a lot of, I guess, inter-community.
But they
hatred.
have a common enemy, is why they're on the same flag. In their minds, they have they're not my enemy.
No. I'm
theirs. And that is an interesting dynamic. I'm not their enemy. Bruce isn't their enemy.
You are not their enemy. I would, again, it's a pendulum swing thing. I do. I know you're not going out of your way to hunt down gay people, right, and lock them in a dark basement. That's not happening. It's not, nothing even remotely close to that is happening.
Is that happening?
No, that is my exact point. But that's kind of what
kind of basements don't have light?
Well, do you not remember my basement?
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Speaking of having people chained up in the basement. I did forget that. It's where you kept your signs and hats
And ex-boyfriends.
and current ones.
Well, now I don't have a basement.
The boiler room.
But yeah, I don't know. It's odd to me that I think I'm at a point in my life where I think people should just be labeled as people. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yes.
I need to have 100 labels. And
I've always said that we happen to belong to the generation of the happens to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a person, and they just happen to be
exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's. I think that's why Generation X is it has a lot of kind of adverse reactions to some of this, because in our minds, everything of all of this was solved. Like we fully accepted. Like
lived.
Yeah. And we made fun of each other. Like we were mean to each other back and forth, but that's how we became friends. Right. And that's how we became close.
Read that.
Maybe. Yeah. Just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's a challenge for me. And I've had this discussion with you before. I despise activism.
Yeah.
I just despise it because it doesn't do anything. Right. And that's one of my favorite quotes from Elon Musk when he had the interview.
Normal.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, just recently he said there's so many companies out there trying to look like they're doing good while they're doing evil. And I just feel that activism that's why the pendulum gets swung on both places, on both ends. It really aggravates me. Like we can't just. And
the only people that benefit is the crazy globalist controlling cabal, while we're all down here fighting about who we're having sex with and who we're hating and what color we are. They love it.
Yeah.
So the LGBTQI plus, I keep saying it because
it's IA plus now.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Did that happen yesterday?
No, it's within the past several months.
Okay. Do you consider yourself part of that community? And I got a further question about that. Because I'm not asking you specific sexuality questions. Did you say no?
No, I was waiting for your.
Oh, no.
I am going to say no. But again, just because I don't subscribe to labels.
Okay. Here's why I ask. What age are Gen Z people?
90.
So they're not
96 is the year.
Okay, so 28% of Gen Z identifies as part of the LGBTQIA plus community. 4% of boomers do. Now, here's my question there, and I really want to know the answer to this. When they say they're part of that community, does that mean, hey, I just line up and agree that they should have equal rights? Or are 28% of that generation saying that they engage in that lifestyle sexually? I don't know. What would your thoughts be?
Well, so people who identify as allies would not fall into the category of the
community.
Okay. So I think that the percentages are people who are saying they identify on a sexual level with that. The thing that I immediately thought of when we talked about the discrepancy in percentages is because boomers didn't have that many letters to belong to, right? So you were either gay, straight, or lesbian. And for a long time, being gay or lesbian was a legitimate crime, and you could legitimately end up in jail.
Again, despicable.
Mm-hmm. So I think that a lot of people didn't identify for a long time because of that. But I also think that the reason that the letters keep growing is because people are in this day and age are so determined to have something they belong to and something that they can identify as, which is bizarre.
Yeah, I agree. That's well said. My issue with the fringe parts of that community is that they went from standing up to end discrimination,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really good thing,
Mm-hmm.
to insisting that the rest of society caters to them and gives them preferential treatment because of who and how they choose to have sex.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that. It seems that the once bullied didn't merely want the bullying to cease, they actually wanted to become the bully.
Mm.
You said that to me, and it rang true then, and it rings true now. They now want to be the bully, and that's also a problem. So those of us who don't identify that way, I'll speak for me. I don't want any discrimination against them.
Right.
They shouldn't be kept from jobs or anything. I also don't think they should get a job because who they have sex with. I'm also confused about so many people are demanding to be identified by how they like to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something that is the first thing that people need to know about them. Like, if we just met and I said, hey, I'm Jim. Oh, I prefer to have sex with the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Why do I need to know that?
Yeah.
And then it's like identifying by your favorite sexual position. I don't need to know that about you.
Yeah.
It's just a preference you have.
Yeah.
Why is it your dominant identifying
personality
trait?
Yeah.
Why do you think that that's the most interesting
Important thing about
How
you.
little do
Mhm.
you think of yourself?
Right.
You're probably a super smart, interesting person. Why do I even need to know that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need to know if you're going home to a boyfriend or not, if you're my male coworker.
No.
It doesn't matter to me.
No.
And I think they're shocked to know it doesn't matter to us.
And offended.
We don't care. Yeah. Now you're mad that I don't care?
Yeah. I watch or I listened to a podcast for a long time called The Bald and Beautiful, and it's two drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race, but they were doing an interview, and one of them was talking about how when people approach him and ask him what his pronouns are, he just jacks with them because he said it's ridiculous. You're going to call me what you're going to call me. I don't care. And that's not the most important part of who I am as a person. And to be honest, if I accidentally call you by the wrong thing, you're going to be offended. So why does any of this matter? And I thought that was really interesting considering he's coming from somebody who dresses up as the opposite gender for a living. For them to say, you know, there's a little bit of stupidity in this whole thing is, to me, pretty profound because you're literally in it. You're literally the target audience for that conversation. And you're saying that enough is kind of enough.
Yeah, I think they're sick of it.
Yeah. And he's older, you know, he's
and it's
40.
It goes back to the dumbest people are the loudest in the room.
Yeah.
And if you're in that room, you kind of get sick of listening to the dumb people, especially if you're in the room and they're reflecting on you in that room and there's somebody else outside that you respect looking into that room. I went a long way with that metaphor.
We've gotten to a place where we forget we're Americans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the world is laughing at us. The conversations that we're sitting here having, they would think, why? Because people are going to listen to this. We have listeners overseas and they comment a lot and they're going to be like, you know, that's a you problem over there. What? Right. You don't have enough real problems.
I think we do. I think we're not focusing on them. You know, we want to have conversations about pronouns, but the real issues that face America are not being addressed. The opioid epidemic that we're facing across most of our country, the homeless population that's going on, the school shootings, those things are being pushed down so that we can discuss whether or not trans kids should be allowed to have, you know, medications to alter their chemistry and so that we can discuss pronouns and stuff like that. We're ignoring the real issues. And I think that other countries are looking at us and saying, You guys are just stupid.
I agree. And that's the problem. We need to unite as Americans. Pronouns. Speaking of that, that's my next section. My personal feeling is you can identify however you want.
Yeah.
You can call yourself a houseplant.
Yep.
You can call yourself a horse. You can neigh. I don't care.
Yep.
You're free to do that. I have no problem with it. I don't hate you for calling yourself a houseplant. It's fine. We can go have lunch. However, here's the problem. When they ask me to play along and even want to discriminate against me if I don't play along, to the point of I could be fired from a job, I could be arrested in some circumstances for
misgendering somebody.
There you go. That's freaking crazy town. And I'm not playing the game.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be part of your make-believe world. No, I'm not saying that to you.
Right now, I know.
The houseplant person can call themselves a houseplant. I'm going to call them Bob. Right. I'm not going to say, hey, Azalea Bob. Why is that crazy for me to say? And why are so many people that listen to this going to start typing mean comments to me about how I'm a bigot?
I do my best. If I know that your intention is to portray yourself as a woman, I will do my very best to refer to you as such, just as a politeness. But I agree with the anger behind it. So
let me say this. Let's say that I was at Starbucks and a male who was dressed as a female, obviously dressing up as a female, is serving me my coffee. I wouldn't go out of my way to say, thanks, dude.
Exactly.
I wouldn't do that.
Right.
But I also probably wouldn't say, thank you, miss.
Right.
I would say, thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't, because why offend on purpose either?
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Hey, man, have a good day. I wouldn't do that to that person. Yeah. Like we were just at Starbucks on the way to the studio.
Yep.
And the gentleman, he was a male and looked like a male, like a Starbucks male is looking these days. Had the name tag on that said, Mark, him, he, him. And then he said to me, have a great day, sir. And as we're pulling away, I said, well, Misty, how does he know that I want to be identified as sir? And I'm obviously joking. But he's got to have a name tag on telling me how I can address him.
Mm-hmm. And it's not for him. It's for the one or two other people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So that they can, it's their, because, the transgenderism aside, the individuals that choose the weird pronouns, the ones that are outside, to me, it's just them. It's the person who decides that their nickname is something and they insist that you call them the nickname.
Like if I wanted my nickname to be T-Bone.
Yeah.
And you said, hey, Jim, I haven't seen you in a while.
T-Bone.
That's not my name. Yeah. Yeah, the dead naming's
Misty's
very
a
weird.
bigot.
Right?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
She called me Jim instead of T-Bone. I'm T-Bone.
And we would call those people tools back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, take it easy, Ralph.
Yeah, right.
You're not T-Bone.
Yeah. And if it is something that you feel so, I guess, defensive about, there's got to be a little leniency, right? Especially when it comes to people who've known you for 10 years as Jim, to suddenly expect that they're never going to call you anything but T-Bone is ridiculous. And I've seen a lot of that where people get mad at family members for dead naming their child or them or whatever. And I just kind of think, well, that's who they've known for
Let's not gloss over dead naming. Would you unpack that for me just a little bit?
Okay. So dead naming is when somebody changes the way that they identify. So let's say I decide tomorrow that I am trans. I'm going to be a man now. And my name's going to be Mark. Misty is my dead name because Misty's dead. Now I'm Mark. So if you called me Misty, you would be dead naming me.
Am I the only one listening to this that wasn't quite sure what that meant?
Maybe. Probably not, though.
Okay. Dead naming.
Yeah.
All right.
Ridiculous. People are going to make mistakes. Give them some grace.
Yeah. Don't intentionally wound somebody, but understand we might not play along with your fantasy.
Well, and quit making a martyr of yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? This is not a real issue. This is a non-issue. To be accidentally misgendered, I've called girls sir by accident before. You know what women don't do? Freak out. It's not a thing. We're like, ha ha ha, you messed up, man. Who cares? This is not something that people are going out of their way to purposefully spite you. And if they are, why is it such a big freaking deal? Who cares? There are real problems. Face them.
The whole words are violence thing is astounding to me too. I'm saying that the right way. They consider these words are harming them and they're violent to them. Have you ever been punched super hard in the teeth? That's violence. I have too, multiple times.
Yep.
I used to be, and I'm a little mouthy.
Yep. I would wish that those people would have just shouted
Just
at me.
shout at me, right? I mean, can't you just shout at me and let me go home? But
because that's violent enough.
The people that think that this is violence haven't experienced violence. And they're just looking to be offended. And I just think it's holding us back. The pendulum probably, unfortunately, is going to swing too far the other way again. Yeah. Now people are going to be wounded and hurt. And
it's because every previous generation doesn't understand that there's going to be another generation that comes up right after them that wants to be the exact opposite.
Yeah. Right? So now it's going to be cool at some point again to be straight-laced, to have the short cropped haircut, to listen to some hardcore music, to not drink, to not smoke, that's going to be cool again. Right? Instead of injecting yourself full of estrogen as a 17-year-old male person and, weighing 120 pounds and having dark circles under your eyes and purple hair and painting your nails and calling yourself Sheila. That at some point isn't going to be cool anymore.
Yeah. I think a lot about the difference between my generation, which is the millennials, and then the Gen Z kids, right? And I think that when they first started opening their mouth, when that Greta Thunberg kid first came around, I was like, wow, she's a lot, Maybe she's got some smart stuff to say, but she's an awful lot. When I was a teenager, we were focused on not having kids bullied at school for being gay, because that still happened in the early aughts, right? And on ending a lot of, I guess, discriminatory practices. These kids have come up behind us and they've undone everything we've worked for. And I feel like probably my parents' generation feels the same way about my generation, right? Like we worked so hard to put all these things in place for you guys to have this life, and you just came and you messed it all up. These kids are so aggressive. And they're pushing their agendas so hard that I can feel everything just slipping back. Roe versus Wade. Would that have probably been turned over if these kids would have shut up? No, I don't think so. It took feminists years, decades to get that put into place. It's now gone. I think the next thing to go is probably going to be some affirmative action stuff. And then I think we're probably looking at some...
So most affirmative action has already been rolled back. That's already happened.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Do not disagree. But I do think that there's probably part of that previous generation that's watching it happen, being like, there was a reason that some of it was in place.
So interesting that you brought up Roe versus Wade. So we differ on you're staunchly pro-choice. And I generally am pro-life, and there are circumstances and nuance in that conversation. And it's not my main voting platform, but what that Supreme Court decision did a couple years ago was not outlaw abortion in this country.
It was to give power back to the states,
which is how it was set up in the Constitution.
Right.
So people don't really understand that they outlawed abortion. No, they absolutely didn't. State by state, that is now legislated. And if you live in a state that doesn't allow abortion, then elect different people or move.
Right.
Much like marijuana. That should be a state by state issue.
Yep.
And so people freak out about, it just put it put the onus on the state.
Yeah.
Which is how this republic was originally set up.
Correct.
And we can have differences about, well, you're more pro-choice, I'm pro-life, and I gotta hate Misty. And Jim hates women because he doesn't let him have what?
No, and to be honest, I think that I don't advocate for women just willy-nilly going out and getting abortion.
Like as birth control.
No. Yeah. What I do advocate for is women having more control over their reproductive health. So CHI is one of the biggest hospital chains in the country. You can't get a tubal ligation done in a CHI hospital. Dr. Jamie Seaman told me that when I went to her to get mine done. You can't do it in any of their hospitals. There are other hospitals where you have to petition their board in order to qualify for that. If you're somebody who doesn't want kids, that should be your right to make that decision. I've faced doctors who've told me that I need to show them I am mentally healthy enough to make that decision. To be honest, I think you should have to prove that you are mentally healthy enough to have a child. I think that needs to be the conversation. I don't think that it should come down to whether or not you believe in abortions, because I think that's not the crux of the issue. The issue realistically should be, are women able to make healthy decisions about their reproductive rights? And are those options available to them, readily available to them? And more so than that, are we paying women to overpopulate our country? Which you already know, I believe we are. I think that...
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I think if we addressed those two issues, abortion would become a non-issue because we wouldn't have so many.
Yeah, it's complicated. It's a tough one. I see both sides of the CHI talk. It's a business.
Correct.
They are a
absolutely
Christian-centered business. Who should force them to do procedures that don't line up with their values? Should the government force that?
No,
now
absolutely.
We're talking about government overreach. Also, in this country, it should be allowed, and it is, for a different set of values. Those people can set up their hospital and provide that. So I see I'm a Christian person. If I was to set up a clinic, this is a big stretch, but we wouldn't offer abortions at my clinic.
Right.
Because it would be my choice to not perform that. Just like the guy down the street, if we're in a state that allows it, he should be able to start a clinic and he should be able to do that.
Yes. I do not disagree when there are more options.
Now, I would say this. If you walk into CHI's emergency room and you need a procedure right freaking now that says you're going to die or you're in danger or whatever, they need to save your life right then, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we're talking about elective things.
Yes.
That's a different conversation. What I was referring to was the elective things.
Yes, absolutely.
And I need to be clear on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's part of your Hippocratic oath that if somebody's life is in danger, you have to do whatever it is that it...
Like if I don't believe in Botox at my clinic, I should be able to say, I'm not doing Botox.
Absolutely.
I choose to not. Now, if you come in and your face is half laid open because you got in a car accident, I need to fix your face.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think that is a conversation for sure. I just think that it's entirely too difficult. You know this, as long as you've known me, I've never wanted children. I've been very clear about that for a long time. Not that I don't think I'd be a great mother if I had to be, but I'm very selfish with my time. And to be honest, I don't believe that I have all the capabilities that a child would deserve. I'm very strict about what I expect from parents. I believe you need to be financially secure. You need to be mentally stable, emotionally stable. and you need to be able to provide a life for that child. I historically haven't always had the mental health aspect of that down, right? So I'm not going to put a child through that because they didn't choose that life. So I decided for myself to do this thing. Now, there is obviously birth control that's available anywhere, but there are really bad side effects to hormonal birth control, and especially with long-term usage of that. When I finally did get my surgery, I spent months suffering from the withdrawal symptoms. So I was having hot flashes. It affects your moods. It affects your appetite. Everything that you're doing day to day, your weight gain, everything is going to be affected by the long-term use of those hormonal birth controls. So I just think that there needs to be a discussion of how to make it easier for women to decide not to have children. And that way we don't have to have the conversation about whether or not to end or terminate a pregnancy that could have been prevented in the first place. And to do so in a way that doesn't cause long-term problems, because birth control does increase your risk of breast cancer. It increases your risk of heart failure. It obviously messes with your mental health, which mine has been phenomenal since getting that crap out of my body. It really jacks up your life. So I would like for people to be willing to have the conversation of what other avenue can we take that kind of meets us in the middle.
Everything you said, to any right-thinking person, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense to me. What I would challenge you with is, I think what you're saying is it's the government's role to step in and provide those options for people.
So no, I don't care. I want government completely taken out of it. I don't want states to have the ability to determine a woman's healthcare rights at all. Not a federal level or a state level. I think that if a hospital chooses to offer a solution to a problem that you're facing, then you should go to that hospital. I think that if a doctor is willing to perform something that you need to have done, then that should be their right. I think it should be between the medical provider and the patient. And that's it. Everybody else should be taken out of the equation.
I can't say that doesn't make some sense. That seems like a reasonable thought to me. I haven't really unpacked it to that level to where there should be no discussion. It should just, that's interesting.
Right. The pushback would be that there's a lot of, as with everything, there's going to be bad actors.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's going to be doctors out there that are going to, they're going to profit from selling you the fact that you need something before you actually need it.
That's exactly right. They're going to run ads that say, it sucks having kids. You don't want that. Did you just turn 18? We got a 2-for-1. Bring your friend down to Bob's clinic. And we're going to take care of your hysterectomy.
Absolutely.
And so
there are already ads like that, though, for medical procedures. So Botox is very well advertised. Lip fillers are very well advertised.
For sure, but we're talking about two different things. This is super life-altering.
It is super life-altering.
Your lips are fat for a year in the other scenario.
Even at that, how many times have you seen those weirdos who turn themselves into cats?
Right.
The women who get so much plastic surgery that they're permanently scarred. Rhinoplasties are
it's a reasonable argument.
Yeah.
It's a reasonable argument to have. I can see that. Yes, it is super advertised. Yeah. And that's why you're here. It's pretty good.
Very interesting perspectives.
And I appreciate your transparency. I guess I didn't really know that you had gone through all of that and that you have felt that much difference since you.
Night and day. You know, the only time I cry now is watching Armageddon.
Nice. Good for you.
You know that's a big deal.
It is. Yeah. So back in the day, Misty would cry when I would say things to her at work, and different things than you might think. Like one of these things that triggered her to cry was early on in the day, I would say things like, "Good morning."
That's dramatic.
So I'd walk in, she's making her sign, she's got her hat on, and I would say, "Good morning." And she'd go, Oh.
I will say I did cry over a flannel one time. That happened, but not good morning.
A flannel?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some issues.
Yeah. We used to have some issues.
And I don't wear flannels anymore.
It was the last time she ever wore a flannel.
It was. And I spent 3 hours making him watch me cry.
She wouldn't leave.
I don't quit.
So much that she sat across from me and was crying and crying and crying that I ended up just having to be like, I got to just pretend I'm doing something. So
It's like flipping through the TV channels.
Because the TV was behind her. So I'm going.
That was 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
So I'm like looking through her. I'm going.
There's still 2 hours and 50 minutes left.
And then once in a while I'd hear, dang, I got to turn this up.
Hyperventilating.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I said something out of line about she had a flannel shirt on, and
No, that
was that a different time?
That was a
am
different
I bringing
time.
up more?
Yeah.
Am I ripping off more scabs? I'm
That
sorry.
was a different time.
Oof.
Yeah, I used to wear flannels, and there's a demographic who leans towards flannel wearing
And cargo shorts.
and cargo shorts, and a direct line was drawn between me and my flannel that did not match with cargo shorts, and this specific demographic. And
Did I come out and say that? It's okay. I don't work there anymore.
Was this when you joined that cult?
which
Remember
cult?
that sign hat cult?
This was post cult. I did wear a flannel to that.
But that was required.
Yeah, that's the gear.
And it was summer.
No, it was cold. I think it was like March. And I got hit by a car.
Oh, yeah. Bury the lead.
Yeah. I got hit by a car at the Women's March downtown.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Oh, the irony.
There was a little old man driving it. So
There you go. The patriarchy coming for you.
yeah, and his little rickety Cadillac.
Nice.
But
Seems
yeah,
dramatic.
no. So the crying is definitely gone.
Good for you.
I feel so much stronger, and so much better in every aspect.
Yeah.
Feel so much more mental clarity just because I wouldn't be able to sit here and have this conversation with the eloquence that I've been able to a year ago. It just wouldn't have happened. I would have been too afraid to say a lot of things. I would have been stumbling over my words, and
So
It's
it's
just
okay. I
different.
think you're kind of not trying to come out and say this. So a big part of your improved mental health is that you're not around me every day.
not
that where
what
we're
I was
going?
trying to say.
So
at
I'm
all.
seeing it in your
No,
eyes, and you
that's
just
not
don't
what
want
I'm
to come out and say it. Bruce, it's
That's
time
what
to
you-
wrap it
We're all
up.
thinking
If
you. I
that's
think
what
so.
you would like to say, Jim.
But we're not done yet.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying because my hormones were jacked up.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a grasp
Yeah,
of my
I
own
get you.
brain.
I understand. I wanted to ask you, who are you in 12 months? Who are you in 3 years and maybe 5 years? From a personal and professional perspective, because I'd like to know what your professional targets and goals are.
Okay. So financially, I would like to make more money than I've ever made, which I accomplished last year. But I'd like to shoot it in the foot by about 10,000 this year. That's my goal. I want in the next 3 years to be the general manager of my business and its auto dealership. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know. There's a lot of things personally that I'd like to get done. I'd like to finally get my passport and travel outside of this country. That would be fantastic. That's going to happen next year. We're going to go to Mexico for a week. And then I'm just, I just want to be stronger. I want to be smarter. I want to have more fun. I want to be less of a victim every single day. And somebody who takes charge and responsibility and accountability of my own life and my own future. I think that's really the crux of my goals, is just to be a better me.
It's a pretty good target.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage you to analyze and work tangibly to improve the exchange you find yourself in your career. Because you're in an exchange, and that exchange is you're giving X amount of time and worry, not necessarily anxiety and worry, but there's a level of worry to it in any career. And you're giving a lot and analyze that exchange.
Yeah.
And I would say that most of these exchanges are way too lopsided in the favor of the people signing your checks. It's not just in the organization that you're in, it's in most. So I would encourage you, because you're valuable and you're worth it, ask yourself what a more beneficial exchange would look like. And then you can't sit at your desk and wait for them to come and improve it for you.
Yeah.
And I think you've laid out some pretty reasonable professional targets, and they're not going to just walk down one day and say, hey, you know what? You're now this.
Yeah.
Because it's not to their advantage to do that. So be the squeaky wheel. And I think that the way that you get their attention and improve your exchange is improving you, as you've talked about that you want to do, and building up a team that works under you that is so solid that it's undeniable that you are the best leader that they have. People aren't looking for managers.
Yep.
They're looking for leaders, and there's a big difference. And the job that you've expressed that you want someday, somebody has, don't they?
Yep.
So that person either needs to be able to move up and create a new job for himself, or he needs to go because you want his job.
Yeah.
And I would always encourage you to let people know, hey, dude, you got a minute for a cup of coffee? I want your job.
Yep.
And I'm coming for it. So you need to figure out how to get promoted, or you're going to get fired, because Misty Doo's coming for you.
Right.
Because you're that strong and you're that valuable, and you need to make that a reality. So when we have you on in 12 months, 3 years, whenever, the audience is going to expect you hit these goals.
Yeah.
So now it's out there.
It is.
Both of them will.
That's right. My mom.
I heard you got 6 views, so.
So this conversation probably won't be as shadowed as some of our priors. So hopefully people get to actually see this, because I think there's a lot of people are going to benefit from your perspective. I think you're inspiring to a ton of young women. Not that you're not inspiring to men as well, but your perspective should motivate and inspire young women, because you inspire me, and I'm not a young woman. I do not identify as a young woman. Can I identify as a young man?
I mean, you could try.
Thoughts?
Age is just a number. Young at heart.
That's called immaturity. But again, I appreciate it. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to finish up and share with anybody that we didn't go over, or any final words of wisdom? And if not, we can just say, hey, we're done.
No, I just appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. And I hope that people have a lot of discourse amongst themselves and amongst their family and friends based on what we've discussed today.
Well, they will.
Respectfully.
They're going to let me know about it.
I think that's the key. Just be willing to listen and learn, and be respectful if you don't agree. I don't agree with a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that I need to treat people like crap.
Good word. Mm-hmm. Good place to end, Mr. Coddington.
Anytime you want.
We're done. Thank
Sweet.
you.
Thank you.